Hey everyone, Dr. Crocker, Pet Vet here, and I'm excited to do another live. I did have a little bit of time where I didn't do them just because of stuff going on with kids' school and traveling on the weekends, but we are here now. We are ready to do a live. I'm very excited about this one. I've been doing a lot of board certified specialist, and I have a lot of people who are really interested in kind of alternative tracks in veterinary medicine. And so that is what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about a veterinarian who is I guess, industry vet. I'll have to ask her exactly what you would kind of call it, but is not in clinical practice every day and has a different job. And so we are going to wait to have her join us. And a lot of you submitted really awesome questions. You can always add questions down in the chat, and I try to catch those as we go along also. But I think it's going to be a good conversation, and hopefully it'll be something that you guys will enjoy. Let me send her a request and see if we can get her on. Hi, Kyle. How are you? I hope that you liked the one we did. I think it was Repro. Was it? Hi.
Hi. How's
Can you
it
hear
going?
me?
I
Oh,
can hear
you know.
you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. I will be honest, I was in my workout stuff, but you always look so fabulous that I actually put a clean shirt on for you. So I hope you.
First of all, number one, you always look amazing. That's number one. Number two,
No.
I appreciate the compliment. Number three, if you would like, I could stand up and you can see what I look like from the waist down.
No, because I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. So we're good. We're good. Well, I think part of it too is obviously we're going to get to Pooch Perfect, but the outfits on that show were amazing. Like your wardrobe, oh.
That is all thanks to the amazing Nola Roller, who's based out of LA. I had nothing to do with that. Nothing. You could come and look at my closet. It's pretty much all like either I have scrubs.
Yes.
This is casual now because of what I do, or workout clothes, and that's essentially it.
Yes, I get that, and I feel like scrubs are great because I can even work out in them sometimes, and I'm like, whatever I got to do to fit it in, especially with the mom life in veterinary medicine. So, okay, introduce yourself, please, ma'am, and then we will get into it.
Yes, so my name is Dr. Callie Harris, parentheses Foley. Foley's my married name. Harris is still my professional name. I have not actually transitioned over to my married name, and we have been together for almost 5 years, married.
Okay.
And that's a whole nother conversation. But I am a veterinarian. I'm a graduate of Tuskegee University College of Veterinary Medicine. I graduated many years ago, and now I work for Nestle Purina by way of an emergency vet journey. And I am just so excited to be here with you because you are just such an inspiration to me and so many others.
Well, I appreciate that. I think we kind of first connected when I had Dr. Courtney Campbell on here, and he's watching right now. So hi.
Hi, Dr. Campbell.
We love him. He's great. But you guys, I think, know each other, and he was like shouting out to you. And so I'm like, I need to check out what she's about. And then obviously the show and everything else. So I was very excited to hear more about your journey, and I got a lot of great questions for you, but I always kind of just take people back to like pre-vet school.
Yeah.
So give me the rundown. How did you even start tracking veterinary medicine? What was it for you?
You know, it's such a great question because I feel like most people expect me to say, oh, I knew I wanted to be a veterinarian from the moment that I came out my mother's womb. And that was not the case. Okay. When I was growing up, I loved animals, but I loved a lot of things. I enjoyed, arts. I enjoyed, theater. I enjoyed all types of science, but I always had a passion for animals. And so it wasn't until I got into college, honestly, like started my undergrad career. I was a biology major. I knew I was going to go. I knew it was likely that I was going to go to med school. That's where my track was. And then it was actually my college roommate at that time. She was like, Callie, you are like almost psychotic about pets. You're kind of abnormal. So why would you not go to vet school? And in that moment, I switched from being a biology major to agricultural sciences, and then the rest is history.
Okay, okay. I like that. And I think it is important for people to realize that, you know, I think people feel like everything's so linear. And it's important to realize that as you go along and as you change and you grow and you kind of figure out what you do and don't like, that you can kind of, you know, make your career what you want it to be.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
that's a good thing to know. So where did you do undergrad at? Was it at Tuskegee also, or was it somewhere else?
No, so I am a second generation Tennessee State University graduate. So TSU
Nice.
is in Nashville, Tennessee. It is an HBCU, historically Black college and university. And so I always say I am a double HBCU grad. So
Yes.
that's where I did, that's where I went to undergraduate. And it was my parents, that's where they met. And I have family that live in Nashville. This is kind of a little known fact, but I was a cheerleader when I was at TSU. So I cheered when I was a little girl all the way to 2 years into college, which does that. I mean, most people who know me, that doesn't surprise them. But yeah, I enjoyed my undergrad years quite a bit.
I love that. And I think, you know, you were saying you're like into theater and creative, and I think a lot more veterinarians are creative than people give us credit for. Like, I don't think that people think science-minded people can be creatives, but we very much are. I was totally into theater, and I always tell people that my theater background and what I did even in college in theater, I think helps me in the exam room. Like, I know how to
For
speak
sure.
to people, I know how to present myself.
Yeah. Yes. All
Makes
of
a
the
huge
above.
difference.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, I feel the same way. And I think more of us should come out and talk about our passion for other things outside of science. Because, you know, here's the thing, you probably have gone through this as well. Without that other side of my brain being activated, the creative side, or the side that likes, you know, to dance, or the side that, you know, likes to maybe put on some makeup here and there. Like, I did not have that part of me that was activated. It would have made, or still continue to make, my time as a veterinarian very isolating, and maybe not even as enriching as it is for me. Like, I feel very enriched by my career, but also what I do outside of my career.
Yeah, I think that's true. And the point that you don't have to kind of give all that up. And you, if you need those things to fill your bucket, you have to know what fills your tank up. And if you don't have a full tank, you will not survive this career in any way, shape, or form. So
Absolutely.
that's the first golden nugget you're dropping. I know there's going to be a lot more. So when you're applying to vet school, are you only looking at Tuskegee because of like demographics and comfort level, or did you apply to a lot of places? What did that look like for you?
So it's actually a really interesting story. When I was going through undergrad at Tennessee State, the main school that I knew veterinarians from in my region was from UT Knoxville, because I was in Nashville. So I worked at a vet clinic in Nashville, and majority of those vets were all UT grads. I didn't actually meet a Tuskegee veterinarian until really after I had graduated, or got my senior year in undergrad. That's when I met him, Dr. Coleman. And so I didn't know much about Tuskegee's program. So I did apply to UT because I was encouraged to do so. And I got waitlisted. And then I also applied to UGA, got waitlisted. And then I did not get in that first year. Those were the only two schools I had applied to. So then, and so I had to, you know, being very transparent, moved back home with my parents down here in Metro Atlanta, talked, you know, wondering, okay, what's going to happen? What am I going to do? And that was when I remembered my conversation with Dr. Coleman. He was a Tuskegee graduate, and he's like, why didn't you look at Tuskegee? Like, Tuskegee is the, you know what, the shiznit. Okay. And I felt really embarrassed that I hadn't put any research or investigation into that university, especially coming from TSU. And so that during that year off, I did my research, went down to visit, got an interview, was thrilled to be down there amongst the giants that graduate from Tuskegee. And I just, I don't regret anything about that pathway at all. It was the right fit for me. And I feel very lucky and honored that I was able to graduate from Tuskegee.
Well, it sounds like you ended up where you were supposed to end up ultimately. And I think that's important too. Like, it took me twice to get into vet school, and I applied to quite a few schools and kind of waitlisted, and A&M was where I wanted to go, and I finally got in the second time around. But it's weird. I looked at the whole time through school, I looked at the class ahead of me and I always
Yeah.
like was like, okay, that's who I would have been with, right? If I had gotten in, and they were amazing. But my
Yeah.
class was like my people, like my family,
Yes.
And
I
so
sometimes I forget that I shoulda, coulda, been part of that class in front of me. Because to your point, I was class of '08, and I
right,
can't imagine coming out at the time that I came out was the time I was supposed to. Like it's
right.
just it all happens for a reason. So, and I think that's something. I love you too, Antonio, Daza Antonio. He actually is a reason why I love ballroom dance. So for anybody who's interested in ballroom dance that lives in the Metro Atlanta area, you should go to Daza Dance Ballroom Academy. So I love you too.
Okay, wait, real quick. I love dancing. I can't ballroom dance, but what kind of ballroom dancing? Because there's a plethora of ballroom dancing. So what do you do? Everything? All of it?
Girl, I did it all. So that's actually a really interesting story. When I graduated from vet school, I did a small animal rotating internship. And let's just be face it, guys, I was broke. All right. I didn't have any money. No monies. I was an intern. So I focused, did what I need to do. And then I was very fortunate to get offered a position down at an emergency practice here in Atlanta. Listen, Courtney, anytime. I'm ready to ballroom. We talked about this. But it was funny. This is going to be a very transparent story, and my husband has heard the story, so it doesn't matter. But I dated a guy for a few years after my internship, and we broke up. And after our breakup, I needed to figure out, okay, what can I do to fill this void, right? And there was a Groupon. Do you guys remember Groupons? I don't know if anyone's still.
Yes.
Yeah. There was a Groupon for Daza Dance Ballroom Academy. And I was like, ding, 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 this is what I need to do. And so I started taking lessons. And what's really great about this, Dr. Crocker, is that I started taking lessons. I worked with Antonio Daza quite a bit. And then he asked me to become an instructor. And so I actually taught ballroom dance after some training for a few years. So it's all love.
That's really fun. Okay, it's not as fancy, but I do like country dancing, so I can waltz and I can two-step and I can be thrown in the air. Yeah.
Well, when we see each other in person, I'm gonna take you on the dance floor and we're gonna do it.
Yes. We are going. I'm like, when do I get to meet everyone in real life? Like, when is this happening?
Let's do it. Let's do it now. What are you doing next weekend? No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, I wish. No, but one more thing about the dancing. I think dancing like feeds my soul. Like I could go, well, when I was younger, I could dance all night and it's the best feeling. Like anyone who's a dancer and loves music gets it. And that's really fun that you did that. That was awesome.
Yes.
So you're at Tuskegee and you are going through school. So how was kind of the school years at Tuskegee? Do they do practical and then like clinical years, or how's it structured there?
Yeah, they have changed the curriculum a bit since I graduated many years ago. But during my time there, it was very similar, very traditional. Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
Where, we started off in the classroom and then the latter years, doing clinical rotations. Living in Macon County, if you talk to many people from Tuskegee, it is an experience within itself. Macon County, Alabama, it's super rural. It is not much has changed, over the years, but it feels like, everyone knows one another. And so I felt very comfortable and very just in a place where I could focus, on my studies. I took classes seriously, like all vet students. My first year, the first semester, it was a little bit of a struggle bus for me because I had spent that year out of school.
Yeah.
And, going through undergrad, like, I don't know if you're anything like me, it came very easy. All my grades seemed to come fairly easy in undergrad. And then making that transition over into vet school, getting a doctor of veterinary medicine, and especially after spending a year out, I was like flabbergasted with the amount of work. And so that first semester, I had to bust, trying to make sure I was going to remain within my program,
It's definitely a little bit of a shock. And I think most people, like everyone's smart in vet school. The big thing is, did you ever like learn how to study, or did you have to learn that? And that like I found out I was a group studier. I was a little bit of a crammer.
Yep.
But if I could talk through things with people, like
Yep.
I would get it.
Yep.
But it takes you a while to find your people, your study group. And then
Yeah.
once you figure that out, and you get into like our classes got more clinically relevant or more, you could kind of pick your classes as you went along a little bit
Yeah.
more. So it gets more interesting, right? So it's
Yeah.
easier after that first year, I think.
Yeah. And for me, what I learned about myself is that I was not a group studier. I remember kind of the pressure within that first semester of, okay, who's going to be your study group? Who,
Right.
where are you guys going to study? What's going to be your schedule? And I tried the group thing, once or twice, and realized I was actually a bit more of an independent studier. I had a partner. I had a study partner. Her name is Dr. Jessie Yari Gonzaga. She's Puerto Rican. She's not on here, but I love her. She's one of my closest friends. But she was my partner when it came to studying. But I had to do a lot of that on my own. That was the way that I was able to truly absorb and learn and retain. That was the key.
Yes. Except for some of that exotic stuff. I was like, I will never need to know that ever. Now I see exotics. So I'm like, I should have paid attention.
I saw exotics the whole time as an emergency vet. Not every shift, but we saw everything.
Yeah. Okay, so you ended up in emergency, but let's talk about when you're getting close to graduating. You said you went into a small animal rotating internship. Was it private practice or was it academic? And why did you choose to do an internship?
Yeah, it was private. So I did my internship at the Veterinary Specialty Hospital of the Carolinas, VSH, in Cary, North Carolina. And the reason why I chose to pursue an internship is because literally I had no idea what I wanted to do with my life post vet school. And so I felt like, okay, at least with an internship that will open the door for me if I want to pursue a residency, or it's just going to provide some additional training. And what happened that was surprising to me during that year is that I got bit by the ER bug. If you had asked me in vet school, if I would even consider becoming an emergency vet, I would have like literally laughed in your face. Like, ain't no way. And it was like, seriously, in that year, I realized, number one, I was actually kind of good at it. Despite the fears and the types of cases, it was something that I could do. And then I really learned how to appreciate the variety of cases during that year. And so it made sense for me to go on and become an ER vet. And now it's like when I do my general practice relief shifts, which I just did one on Saturday, kind of last minute, those are actually more stressful for me than doing an ER shift because of just what I'm used to seeing.
Yeah. I like the ER too because it's exciting. Like it's I don't know what's going to happen, and I just kind of handle it as it comes. And I like that part of the job, and that's why I do ER relief, even though I do like general practice. So you only did an internship. You did not pursue like a residency specialty track. Did that place hire you to be an ER doctor, or where did you end up practicing for ER?
So I ended up coming back home to Atlanta. So a place called Cobb Emergency Vet Clinic that is now part of the Blue Pearl family, just as of the past couple of years. I had actually done an externship with them during my senior year in vet school. And I got connected with the medical director at that time. I got to learn, the ropes within the facility. And they made me a really great offer, and I wanted to come back to Atlanta. So it was an excellent fit. And I see Trap God Johnny is asking, as an ER vet, is it board certification? For me, Trap God, no, I did not get board certified. And that's the cool part about emergency medicine, is that you can do it without necessarily pursuing a residency. Now, there's a difference as far as like schedules, maybe even pay, maybe like the severity of cases that you're managing long term. That may make a difference when it comes to board certification. But I felt like I got to do essentially any and everything that I wanted to do, and I grew, I learned, I developed even more during my time as an ER vet.
It's such a specialized facet of veterinary medicine, and then if you're willing to like grow and increase your skills with just like imaging and surgery, you can be a great ER veterinarian without being a criticalist. So if you become a specialist in ER, you're usually like an emergency critical care specialist or something like that. And where I work, there's like 20 veterinarians and only one criticalist. And so,
yeah. And where
but
I worked, it was 2 practices. There was Cobb, and then we had a satellite facility in Woodstock called Cherokee Emergency Vet Clinic. And we had 0 criticalists. And let me just take a moment and just talk a little bit about ER medicine and how it can be sustainable. Honestly, you know, I know I'm not doing it anymore full time, but my experience as an ER vet during that period of time in which I did it was so enjoyable and enriching because of the people that I worked with. That is key. Emergency medicine is so stressful. The hours are crap, right? You know, it can be very draining, you know, on you emotionally. But even despite you being adrenaline junkies and loving it, it truly does matter who you surround yourself with at work. And my crew, my tribe, shouting out to Cobb Emergency Vet Clinic, like that is the reason why we stuck around as long as we did, because of our family, the way we supported one another.
yeah, I agree. It makes a huge difference. And I think your support staff is vital too. A really great ER is going to have a great doctor to support staff ratio. And that will allow you to do your job well, to be really efficient, and to service the clients well. Dr. Courtney pointed out that right now ERs are ridiculous. And I would agree with him. The one eye relief at went from like a wait time of like 1 to 2 hours to currently it's like 6 to 8 hours. It is insane.
It's the same. It's the
insane.
same in my hood. It's the same in my hood. And, you know, I still have friends that are working at my old practice, and I still pick up shifts there. And I will tell you, the burnout, Dr. Campbell, it is a real thing. And I was fortunate enough, okay, I'm going to say this. I was fortunate enough to transition out of emergency medicine full time before I hit that period. You know, I am always going to be more so of a glass half full, optimistic. Any of my former colleagues, they know I'm Glinda the Good Witch, super positive. You know, literally the world could be coming, you know, crashing down. And I'm like, okay, there's going to be another way. But I also had enough foresight to understand that for my longevity just in this career and this profession as a veterinarian, and because I had so many varied interests, and because they layered themselves into where I am at this moment, it made sense for me to leave when I did. It was hard. You know, It was one of the hardest discussions that I had to have with my medical director. It was even harder when I had to break it to my team, but it was absolutely the right decision for me at that time.
Yeah, and that's important. It is good to be a loyal person, right? And it's good to want to help the team, but you can't help anybody if you yourself are completely drained and burnt out. And I do think ER, I don't remember the statistic, but I think that average years that people work in ER, it's a really low number, like 5 to 7 or something like that.
When I first started working, so when I started doing ER full time, this was back in 2009, the average was 3 to 5 years. And in fact, when I took that position, I said, all right, I'm going to do this because I like ER right now. I'm going to stack some cheese because it was a really good salary in comparison to general practice. And then because again, the family and, you know, the team that we built, I was surprised that I stayed as long as I did, you know, but on average, it's really short, guys. It really is.
Yeah. And I think that's normal. So tell me, did you, as you're thinking about making the transition, was it doors just started opening that made you think about, hey, there might be something else out there for me? Or were you kind of starting to feel like this is not sustainable for me, or I need to make a change? And sorry, real quick, you're married, right?
Yes.
Where in the timeline did that occur? Because that, you know, the relationship thing sometimes also, and like kids, affects our choices also, you know?
100%. So I will say, okay, so all those questions that you just threw at me are going to be kind of together. So I got married almost 5 years ago. I met my husband about 8 years ago. So this would have been back in 2013. That was right around the time where I also started exploring other things like ballroom dancing and just really trying to figure out who I was outside of being a veterinarian, right? And so all of it did start to happen at the same time, where it's like, okay, I have this great boyfriend. I have this great now new career, you know, as a ballroom dance instructor. I still love ER, but what's next? What's going to be my next step? And so when I got the opportunity to pursue a position with Purina as an industry veterinarian, I feel like the writings were always on the wall with Purina. For those of you guys who are listening, I was a Purina student rep back in vet school. And so if you don't know what that is, that means I basically acted as what we call now a brand ambassador for the company as a veterinary student. And before brand ambassadors were like the thing to do.
I was going to say, before I was a thing. Yeah.
And I'm going to have to give a shout out to Dr. Courtney Campbell. He's going to start blushing when I say this, but he was the reason why I became a Purina vet. I'm Purina student rep. Yeah, he was, because he was a former student rep. And he definitely, I mean, you know, everyone who knows Courtney knows that, you know, he's very nice to talk to, you know, very nice just in general. And so when he comes out and he's like, oh, I'm a Purina student rep, you should join. I'm like, yeah, whatever you say, that sounds great. Yeah. And then when I started learning more about the company and about, you know, the innovations, it also, I was like, you know, this makes sense. So during my time, Dr. Campbell, he's like, oh my God. So during that time as an emergency vet, you know, Purina was always top of mind as far as my nutritional recommendations. I stayed connected to, you know, my former student reps. I always stayed connected to what was in the pipeline with Purina. And so because of that relationship that I had already established with the company, it made it easier. So for those of you who want to know how to transition into industry, that made it easier for me because I already was connected. And so fast forward to 2015, that was when I applied the first time for a Purina position. And I didn't get it, you know, listen, I didn't get it.
Okay, so what position is it? Because a lot of the questions I got were like, so is she like in the lab? Does she do testing for them? Or is she like go out and speak on their products? So tell me about kind of the different positions you can have as an industry vet and what those options are.
So with Purina and with this specific position that I hold, I am a veterinary communications manager, which if you just think about the title, that means I talk a lot about Purina, the products, the innovations beyond the bowl, you know, our outreach, you know, our initiatives. So to anybody who will listen, I'm going to share all the good news about Purina. And so that is technically what I do. I provide technical support for my sales team. I provide support for my universities. So I manage 4 universities in my area: Tuskegee, Auburn, LSU, and UGA. And so I get into the schools and talk nutrition, talk products. I also do some brand work. So for those of you guys know a little bit about me, I enjoy media. And so I started really being able to put some focus into that with Purina. And so it's really opened up even more doors than I could have imagined by just transitioning over into industry. I don't do any like clinical trials. I don't do any laboratory testing. I learn about clinical trials and I discuss and get to think tank about innovations or products that might be coming out, but I am not one of the guys who are masterminding any of that. Trap God Johnny has a really good question about the salary. I don't know if that's something that I question
too. Yeah.
Okay. So what I will tell you, Trap God, about the salary with industry is that it's not just the number, but it's also the benefits. When I left my emergency position back in 2016, I definitely made a jump in my salary going into industry. It wasn't a huge jump, but I made a jump. But what I also gained in that jump beyond just salary was also the benefits. You know, working for a corporation has its perks. And so healthcare, paid time off, I mean, any like benefits that I didn't even think about when I was in clinical practice was made available to me. So the whole package is what really sold me, beyond the fact that I also enjoyed, you know, the job description and what I was going to get to do.
Well, and there probably was a little more flexibility in scheduling. I know that that can be a huge reason that people will make a shift and make a change is because they need more flexibility or they want to be able to manage their schedule a little bit differently.
Yeah.
So a ton of questions. You actually first you said you applied one time and you didn't
Yeah.
get that position.
Yeah.
So what happened next? Did you work your like networking connections? Did you just wait till the next job came open, or what happened in that
So
case?
Dr. Cocker, it was honestly, it was a blessing in disguise. I was up against some really amazing people. And in fact, it came down to the final four of us at this interview. And out of the four, three of us all eventually became employees of Purina. And
Okay.
so the young lady, Dr. Shelley Adrian, who got the job at that time, she deserved it. And so it was no hard feelings. It was disappointing, but it was like, okay, this makes sense.
Right.
You know, there's a lot of great people competing for this position. And so I had to dust myself off. You know, all of us are going to take a lick at some point in our career. And that was my lick. But what was really great about it is, you know, your attitude affects your altitude, right? So if you don't remember anything else, it's all about your attitude. I maintained a positive attitude. I maintained a relationship with folks that, you know, had interviewed me. And then literally within months after that first interview, I got the call saying, hey, another position is opening up. You don't even
Nice.
have to interview for it. It's yours if you want it. Just give us some time. And that's how I was able to get in. And it was even better because I didn't have to move. It was the region that I wanted to
Nice.
manage. So again, kids, those of you listening, everything happens for a reason. That was another demonstration of it.
I love that. And the other thing I'm hearing that I love to hear is networking, networking, networking. Like I always have people, and a lot of people did ask me, like, how do you set yourself up for an industry job? And I would assume that networking has to be a huge part of that. And you said, like, that networking started in veterinary school where you're doing student ambassador stuff. And I always, you know, tell students, like, if you're interested in something, you need to be reaching out to the professors that do that. You need to like people who visit the school and speak. You need to be like talking to them, getting to know them, because
Yep,
really, those are going to open doors for you, you know, down
absolutely.
for sure.
Yeah.
So
And I don't
I,
want anyone to feel discouraged. Like, let's just say you have vet students that are watching this or watch this at a later time, and they're like, well, darn, I don't have a position as a student rep at my university. And darn, you know, I may not really have any interest in doing something extracurricular right now. You can still make connections outside of that. Conferences are a big one. You know, getting involved with organizations outside of your university, you know, more like a BBMA, you know, where it's more of a national scenario. These are really great opportunities for you to connect with people. And so it doesn't mean that you can't get those industry jobs. It just may make it just a little bit more challenging because it's also about hearing about those positions. You know, a lot of those jobs, they get posted on your major sites, you know, your career profile sites, but once they're posted, then they're gone, right? And so
yeah.
it's nice when you have a little bit of a lead in because of, again, that relationship and that connection that you've already secured with somebody. So that's going to be another pearl. Like, always keep your doors open, always, you know, be willing to connect with folks. Even if you don't see an opportunity in that moment, it's something that can definitely build in the future.
Right. Well, and we both said, like, we've ended up places that we never thought we would be in school. And all of my jobs and things I've ever done have only been through relationships and connections. I've never applied for a job. It's always been word of mouth and somebody that knows me and then someone recommending me. And I'm sure it's the same way for industry that, like, you know, if someone says, I know this person and they are awesome, that goes really far versus just sending in like a resume. Like, just a resume is not going to, you know,
because
make
you've
it.
said it too. Like, you know, Dr. Parker, when you think about it, like, all of us coming out of vet school or even in vet school, we're all pretty much on the same level. We're all smart kids, right? We're all go-getters. We're all trying to save the world one animal at a time. And so how do you differentiate yourself? How do you figure out your own identity when you are presenting yourself to companies or practices or opportunities? And so it really does have to rely on relationships. It has to rely on also the additional training and work that you put into yourself individually. And then I'm going to also go back to attitude. Attitude affects your altitude all day, every day. If you have a positive mindset, I promise you, I'm not saying life is going to always be perfect, but it's
Right.
going to draw opportunities and people towards you if you keep an open mind that is filled with positivity.
I agree. My staff gets annoyed with me because I'm always like, you can't have a bad day with a good attitude. You can't have a good day with a bad attitude. And they're like, ugh. But I'm like,
I mean,
it's
some days just
true.
suck. Okay. Some
I
days just suck. Then
some
you got to
days
pick
do.
yourself up.
Some days do. And the team you have around you makes a huge difference for sure. So do you I did have a lot of people ask, do you miss clinical practice? I know you said you did relief the other day. So
Yeah.
is that kind of something, because it is hard for me to imagine not doing surgery, you
Yeah.
know, like I
Yeah.
love surgery. So do you
Yeah.
miss that sometimes?
I do. I do. I mean, you know, and the longer I stay out of it, you know, it becomes more of a nostalgic scenario. And that's why I still go back and do relief when I can, because I don't want to lose my street cred, lose my
Yeah.
skills that I had worked so hard at. You know, that was probably one of the other challenges when I decided to leave. ER medicine specifically was like, oh my gosh, you know, am I going to, you know, still be respected? You know,
Mm-hmm.
will, you know, I still maintain those skills that I just mentioned? And so I was very challenged with that. And I think I actually spoke to somebody about it, maybe at Purina. And what was really helpful to kind of guide me to get to that next level of, all right, definitely I'm going to transition to industry, was knowing that I was going to be encouraged to still do relief shifts, right? So that's what I love about working at Purina. They want us to remain in a clinical setting. Because if you think about it, if I'm coming to your practice, Dr. Crocker, and saying, hey, let's talk about product A, B, and C, if I can't back it up with my experiences or, you know, provide or showcase that I was in the trenches at one point or still in the trenches with you, you know, it doesn't mean that you can't receive that information, but it makes me less relatable, you know? And so all of that is really, really important to me. And so that's why, you know, whenever I can, you know, I do try to get into a practice and get my hands on some animals, engage with my fellow colleagues like Dr. Quinlan Kilgore Clark, who is waving at us. He is one of the fantastic colleagues that I used to work with at Cobb Emergency. And so getting back into practice with him and learning from him, you know, learning something new that's happened since I've been gone is still very helpful.
I love that. I love that. And I do think I mean, relief, that's the best thing about relief is you can fit it into your life as you want to and as you're able to, which I think is amazing. So you do a little bit of relief, but a lot of people ask, and I really want to know this too, what does your week look like now as like a Purina veterinarian or an industry vet? And
Yeah.
I see you all the time like doing different things with media,
Yeah.
but what are you doing day to day? And you're probably not doing what you did pre-pandemic, but what is it?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I can talk to you first about pre-pandemic.
Yes.
Pre-pandemic, I was traveling. Okay. So this is something that I want everyone to understand too about industry positions. 75%, you know, of your time as an industry vet is probably going to be spent traveling. That's just
Okay.
across the board. Because if you think about, you know, having a position like a veterinary communications manager, I have to communicate, I have to educate, I have to get in there and provide training. And before the pandemic, that meant going into a practice, going into a university, going out with a group of doctors to talk, you know, do a roundtable discussion. And so I, you know, accrued a lot of miles. I accrued a lot of points. You know, I became very bougie when it came to how I like to travel.
I was going to say,
Listen, I'm a Marriott girl. Don't try to put me in a Hilton. And so, you know, that was pre-pandemic. Now, post-pandemic, and we'll kind of see what happens during pandemic and as we transition into like whatever hybrid model that we end up in. A lot of my communications is just like this, you know, in front of a screen. I have become very proficient with Zoom and Microsoft Teams. And, you know, I will say this, that I honestly feel more busy now than I did when I was traveling, because at least with travel, you always had like your rest days, you know, like exactly. With this, I am always on. Like, in fact, I'll probably check some work email after we get off this, even though they don't require it. It's just how it works because it's so accessible.
Yeah, I would agree. Because I traveled and spoke a little bit pre-pandemic, and then it kind of everything went to Zoom, and it's like I had all these speaking, you know, like requests and things, and it was like I was almost doing something almost every night, and finally I was like, whoa, like
You
I
gotta
need to,
stop.
Yeah, I had
You have
shut.
to pace yourself because you think, oh, it's just 30 minutes here. It's just an hour there, you know, so you don't think it's that big of a deal, but it is draining, you know,
It is.
even if you love doing it. And especially if you're preparing for your public speaking or your presentations, then that's
Right.
even additional time that you're putting into it. So, you know, I would say, you know, my day to day, it's getting up, getting in front of my computer, seeing what's hit my emails. Do I have, you know, sales reps that are asking technical questions? Do I have veterinarians that are reaching out to learn about something? Do I need to schedule some events with my universities? So it's a lot of planning. It's a
Right.
lot of also, you know, learning on my end. So it's not just, you know, going into a practice and saying, hey, this is the diet that you feed for your GI patients. No,
Right.
you kind of need to know a little bit more about the mechanisms of action, why these nutrients are important or impactful. So, you know, during my downtime when I can, you know, it's about trying to reiterate or relearn or, you know, discover, you know, nuggets that are going to help me with whatever education that I'm going to provide.
Yeah. And then I can just come to you and be like, what do I feed for this? And you tell
Yeah,
me, you know it all. I don't want to learn all of the like little things.
exactly.
I
I
want to
got
know
you.
like what do I feed? What do I feed the sensitive stomach kidney dog? Just tell me. And then
I
I'm
got
gonna
your
do.
back. Yeah, that's my job now. And it's so funny. My ER friends, they like, now I've become like their nutritionist. Now, let me just put it out there. I am
Yeah.
not a nutritionist. I have
Right.
a lot of nutritionist friends. I work with several of them at Purina. They are phenomenal and super smart.
Brilliant.
That's
Yeah.
not me. But what I can provide, I do have additional training in nutrition
Right.
and understanding the ins and the outs of things that we didn't really have to know 100% about, you know, in practice.
Yeah. No, I get that. And I appreciate people like you. I will tell you that much. So, okay. So let's get into the other really interesting segue in your life. So you are industry veterinarian, I'm assuming for like a couple years, pandemic hits. At what point did you end up on a TV show? That's what I really want to know because number one, I love the show. I love the show. I think it's so fun. Groomers are amazing. What they can do is incredible. But how did that like happen, come about? I want to hear that story.
So first of all, thank you for watching the show. You know, I'm
Yeah.
sure everybody from the Pooch Perfect family, we're all greatly appreciative for anybody who tuned in to watch it. If you didn't get a chance to watch it, it's still available on Hulu. So for those of you guys, if you want to binge watch something that's really fun, Pooch Perfect is going to be a really good one to look at. But it's funny because this all took place during 2020. I felt like 2020 was like a dumpster fire type
Yeah.
of year,
Fair. Yeah.
except for that little beacon of interesting light. So it was one night, it was like last spring. I was laying in my bed, you know, on social media, doing whatever. And one of my good friends, a former ER colleague, Dr. Melissa Braver, she sent me a text message with a screenshot of an ad for this casting call. Calling all veterinarians who would be interested in starring on a creative grooming competition show that's going to be airing, you know, sometime next year. And so we both kind of laughed about it. We're like, okay, what do you know about creative grooming? You know, I know about grooming because my 3 dogs get groomed, but
Yeah.
what do I know about creative grooming? And so we laughed and we talked a little bit about it. But then when I started doing some investigating and like looking up creative grooming, and, you know, I recalled I'd gone to a groomers conference in Hershey, Pennsylvania many years ago. And I remember seeing, you know, a snippet of creative grooming competitions. And so I was able to go back to that. And I said, you know what? I am so happy that they are inviting a judge from a vet's voice to have a seat at the table. So I sent in some pictures. I sent in some videos, including some ballroom videos. I was like, let me just give them a whole plethora of things. I wrote up a blurb, and literally I got an email, you know, within maybe a few hours from one of the casting producers. And then the next thing I know, I'm getting shuffled through some other interviews via Skype, because this was all during 2020. And then literally months passed, went through the summer, didn't hear anything from Pooch Perfect, nothing. And then it was literally, this is going to be so funny, and nobody judge me on this, please. This is a safe space. I was literally downstairs watching I'm not going to say the Republican National Convention. I was sitting there watching this, okay, one evening, and I literally in the middle of it, I get a call from a producer from Pooch Perfect. And I was like, WTF. And they were like, you got the job. And I was like,
awesome.
So shocked, because it just never in a million years I would have thought that somebody like myself would end up on a TV show. Like, it just, it's insane.
Well, I think that you were the perfect one to represent like the veterinary community, because you have that fire and you love what you do, which I think is really important, and you love animals, and then you kind of have like the style and the pizzazz that I think you needed when you're sitting next to Lisa Vanderpump. Like, I was like, as a closet Real Housewives person who likes to binge watch it, I was like, is she sitting next to Lisa Vanderpump? I cannot handle it. That is amazing. That's
Girl,
so awesome.
It was crazy. And it's like, you know, I still can't believe that all happened. But at the end of the day too, I was also called to do a job, you know, part of my job description was to make sure that all the pets that were being groomed were safe, were happy, that I was looking at products and, you know, the techniques and everything that was going on. And what I'll tell you is that aspect of my job was really easy because of the amazing groomers that were on that show that already had safety as their top priority for these pets, that were already obviously pet or dog enthusiasts. And so it was probably one of the easiest jobs that I've had as a veterinarian. And, you know, I got to learn more about creative grooming. I got to learn, you know, more about just being on set. Like, it was just such an awesome time. I got to learn what it felt like to get my hair and makeup done on a regular basis. I mean, literally, when I got back from LA, I'm like looking at my husband like, okay, are you going to help me with this? Like, I need, where are my people? Where are my people? And so
I'd be taking like a ton of selfies and just saving them to like send to my husband at different times, you know, like, remember when I looked like this? Like, just let me remind you, like, real quick. So,
but you know, it was something that I was concerned about for anybody who is interested, you know, in pursuing television. And Dr. Campbell, he could probably talk to you more about it. You yourself, I mean, you're in a very public eye scenario. I think that one of the bigger concerns for me when I was making the decision to go on this show was I didn't want it to negatively impact my own personal brand, right? And my own personal brand as it stands is, you know, Dr. Callie, the veterinarian, and whatever that means. And so I did have to do a lot of soul searching. I did have to have a lot of conversations with former colleagues. Like, you guys aren't gonna make fun of me, right? If I go on this TV show on ABC, y'all still gonna be my friend, correct? Yeah. And everybody was so supportive. You know, it was like there was no haterism that I, you know, had any, you know, experience with. So it was just so nice.
It was really cool, and I was impressed. I think I did, like, I haven't done anything major, but I like randomly was kind of on that reality show just because I worked there, you know, a little bit. And it's tiring just doing like interviews and then them kind of asking you the same question again and them trying to kind of have you say a certain thing and like phrase it a certain way. So I can't imagine like a full TV show. It's got to be a lot. It's got to be long days, and you made it seem very effortless, which I think is awesome. So I'm hoping there will be a season 2 because I really did enjoy it, and I thought it was really fun, and we want to watch more for sure. So I think that I've taken up a lot of your time, and I appreciate you being on here so much, but I really want to kind of just go back over. So there was a couple times that you, just like me, went for something, applied for something, didn't get it the first time, didn't get in vet school the first time, but you kept going, kept grinding, and it happened. The journey was not linear. It's not been what you expected, but networking and just having a good attitude has gotten you where you are. And it's good to try new things. It's good to like be adventurous and throw yourself out there, don't you think?
I 100% agree with you. I think that, you know, variety is truly the spice of life. One of the greater things about being a veterinarian is the fact that you don't have to do just one thing. Like, that's such a misnomer and a misconception. You know, once you get your degree, the world is yours. You know, if you want to go down the track of research or go down the track of media or stay in clinical practice and be the best vet, you know, practicing vet out there, you have the tools that you need to be successful. I think something else too, when I'm talking to my vet students, is you never know what's around the bend. That's the other thing. Like, just in this moment, you might be in a position where you're like, I don't see any light at the end of the tunnel. You might feel like, okay, I'm too tired to try anything new, or, you know, figure out a new hobby or work on a, you know, different skill set, but you never know what's around the bend. So just be open to it. Just be open to change. Don't be afraid, be bold. And then here's my last pearl that I will say, you can always go back. At the end of the day, when I said I'm going to transition to industry or even do a TV show, no one can take my doctorate of veterinary medicine away from me, right? I can always go back and do what I started off with. So don't be afraid to take a leap of faith.
I love that. And I love you. I hope I can say that. I
love you too. You were awesome too, by the way. I know we talked a lot about me, but girl, when you like asked if I would be on this with you, I was like, duh, yes, please. You're just fantastic. What you're doing for the veterinary profession and just your reach has just been phenomenal. And I think you and I are around the same age. I think I was
2009.
We both have crossed over.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
I think
you.
Oh, I was just gonna say that's good that we're out there talking about things too, because you have a lot of like really, really young people in the industry doing it, and we've kind of been through the ups and downs, and we've kind of we've learned a lot. So I love that we're able to share what we've learned and hopefully help them. And so many vet students thank me for these interviews, because they don't know what to expect, right? And it's scary for them. And so even if this, only helps like 2 people, I'm like, it is so worth it. So worth it.
Yes. No, you've been a beacon in this career. Everyone's learning a lot from you. So you keep doing you. You're shining like a star. Shine bright like a diamond.
I appreciate it. And then when we, you and me and Dr. Courtney Campbell actually get to meet in real life, there will be dancing. There will be good food. It will be so fun. I can already tell. So it is a date at some point in the future.
It's a date. Yes.
All right, ma'am. Well, I appreciate it. I hope that you have a great night. Spend time with your family.
Thank you.
I'm sure we'll be talking again soon. Thank y'all for watching, and we'll see you today. Thanks.
Okay. Bye, Thank you so much. Bye, guys.